Hello, everyone. It is Stanley Cup Final time here on Pucks and Brews. I am your host, Michael Shade Sparacino, alongside, as always, Liam, the Chellmaster Godimer. And, well, before I do anything, since we're in the Stanley Cup Final, how's your Chell game been lately, Liam?
Non-existent. I've been here in North Carolina. My PS5 is down in Georgia, so I've not played video games for the last month and a half, 2 months or so. But I'm going back this weekend, and I will be picking up the controller once again. So I will update you. I know the last time we had talked about my NHL 25 head-to-head record on this show. I was going through a little bit of a losing streak. That is now well behind me, and we'll see what the results look like when I get back on the sticks.
I wish I could say it has only been a month and a half for me, but it's been far longer, unfortunately. But, oh well, soon, soon. I've been saying this for 3 years, but soon.
I gotta start making some adjustments to the game if I'm gonna keep buying it every year, you know?
Yeah,
And again, this is not a shot at EA. This is just sports games in general. I just feel like where we are as a society and the technological advancements that we have made over the last 10 years, to have NHL 2010 be a better show than NHL 25. I mean, at some point, fans are going to stop buying the game. So
I
while
did.
I love it, you're a great example.
Oh, I quit after 18 because it was just a troubling direction that the games were going in.
Well, hopefully NHL 26 is something to be proud of, but I'm still gonna play it. I bought it, so I'm gonna get my money's worth.
True, true. Since we're talking about NHL, shout out to the last good NHL game, NHL 14.
Yeah, it was
Cheers to the cold brew.
10
N
to, 10 to 14, pretty good NHL games.
Not sponsored. Dunkin' cold brew, medium. Not sponsored.
Could not be more plain ice water, but it's pretty good.
A man has his simplicity to a T. You
I
gotta love
wake
it.
up, Shades, I haven't had a glass of coffee my whole life. I haven't had coffee once.
Yeah, I don't know how the hell you do that. College broke me.
You want to hear something even more messed up? I'm probably the only play-by-play broadcaster to say this. During a 2.5 hour, 3 hour hockey broadcast, I'm the only one talking. 95% of the games I had no water.
Oh, dude.
Not needed. Not needed. Just put on the headset and talk, baby. Fight through the pain.
God, yeah, no, you're a trooper.
You know, but when I'm sitting here on Pucks and Brews, I'll take some water. You know.
Nice, nice cold drink, refresh the palate.
Mhm. See, here's my thing.
Ah.
I can't have a hot drink. I can't even have a room temperature drink. Room temperature water, get out of here. It's gotta be cold.
Oh, I mean, I enjoy room temperature water. Like, that's just me, but I enjoy it more in the winter time.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Although I'll still drink iced coffee. So, yeah.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, I'm one of those people. Unless it's like 10 degrees out and windy as shit, I'm getting a nice coffee.
Yeah.
But
I don't think we've ever done an episode of Pucks and Brews where you have not had a cold brew with you. Well, you had
it's
that.
probably happened.
Yeah, it's probably happened maybe once or twice. Yeah. Remember, you had the s'mores cold brew that one episode. That was a thing.
Dude, I was so mad when they discontinued that because that was actually pretty good.
Yeah. Well, you know what, Shades? I mean, I know summer's just starting, but like just before you know it, it's going to be pumpkin spice time. And
Do
you
you
know
want to
what?
know something?
You're not a pumpkin guy. I don't think you are.
So here's the thing. Not a pumpkin spice coffee person. Absolutely love pumpkin pie.
Interesting. Maybe it's just coffee and pumpkin, just two flavors you don't want to put together, you know?
I guess not. But then again, isn't it always pumpkin spice?
I would think pumpkin spice would be close to pumpkin pie.
I don't know. It just I
Maybe
had
a
it
little
the
more.
one time and I was just like, no, this ain't doing it for me.
Hmm. Well, maybe Dunkin' will come out with a different iteration of their pumpkin drink.
Well,
Come out.
actually, that one was at Starbucks. So
You going to Starbucks?
yeah, because I thought I had
Dude,
something was
like
like,
cheating on your girlfriend, man.
oh, this was long before I had a Dunkin' account. This is going back to high school. Jesus Christ. This is
Okay.
going back at least 11 years now. Jesus Christ. We're getting old. But I
Your loyalty.
thought, yeah, like I wanted to get a French vanilla latte because that from Starbucks is usually pretty good.
Oh
But
yeah.
my friend had the thing on his app at the time. It was only a free pumpkin spice. And I'm just like, all right, well, if I'm going to get this pumpkin spice for free, why am I going to pay for the French vanilla latte? Let's give it a shot. Not a fan.
You know what? Sometimes you try things, you don't like it, you move on. You know.
Yeah, true. But all right, I enjoyed that we started this off talking about, NHL and coffee. This is Pucks and Brews.
You know what? You hop on a podcast, Shades, and you just never know where it's going to take you. And today, it took us to pumpkin spice
Yeah.
and NHL being a failing video game franchise. But, you know,
Well, at least in terms of gameplay, yeah.
in terms of gameplay, they're definitely making a ton of revenue, but would like to see just a tad more investment. You too, MLB The Show. You're not absolved. 2K, same thing.
MVP Baseball 2005. Goated.
Undefeated. Undefeated. But Shades got some real hockey
We
to get in.
do. We do have some real hockey to talk about. Now, it is Stanley Cup final time, as we said probably like 6 minutes ago now, but we have a rematch, Liam. Florida Panthers and the Edmonton Oilers running it back.
We do have a rematch indeed, Shades. Yeah, same Western Conference Finals as last year, same result. And the Eastern Conference Finals, we have a new foe, but not too competitive. More competitive towards the end there. But um, both series, I know we'll go into it a little bit deeper, but a quick summary. The better team won each series. It's clear as day. And sometimes the underdog wins, sometimes the better team wins, and back-to-back Stanley Cup champions, same opponent. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, yep. We were talking about it last episode. Panthers, I mean, we knew they were going to win. It was just a matter of 4 or 5 games, even though I said seven.
Hey, I took Carolina, and I'll still stand by that. It went awry, but we saw Carolina give Florida at least a little bit of fight in 1.5 games. But outside of
And
that,
emphasis on the 1.5 games.
yes, yes, emphasis on that.
Yeah, the first 3 games, Florida kicked their ass.
Yeah, game four, Florida or Carolina came out really good. Game five, Carolina came out really good, but I think over a 60-minute game, right? Florida just wears you down. And for Carolina to come back down 3-0, the fact that they won one game and looked great in another game, I think says a lot. And I will say this, it says a lot about the Edmonton Oilers too. Even though they did not win that game seven, they fell behind 3-0 last year and they came back and they made that thing a series.
They did.
That's any indication we are in for another unbelievable Stanley Cup final.
Yeah, so we said the Panthers kicked the Hurricanes' ass, which they kind of did, as we mentioned, 1.5 games. Dallas fell short yet again, 3 straight years in the conference final.
Yeah.
This season and last season, back to back against Edmonton, can't get it done. Is it? I don't know, man. It's just like Stars to me, it's like that's their ceiling, a conference final appearance. Because you just watch them play the last 3 years and you just go, something's missing here.
And that's a powerful statement, even after they acquired Mikko Rantanen, and he was pretty hot in the playoffs. A little bit streaky, I guess you could say, but definitely produced for that Stars team. They had some great depth, a nice mix of veteran and young players. That's something I always like to look at. You look at guys like Matt Duchene, you look at younger guys like Mason Marchment. Of course, they move on from Logan Stankoven. Jason Robertson turned it on a little bit later in the series. So couple of moments in this series for me, Shades. And the first, I won't get too ahead of myself. Number one, Dallas wins the first game of the series. And we're still talking about it with Edmonton in five. And it's pretty wild. When Edmonton wants to turn it on, they will turn it on. And Shades, the slash on Rope Hints from Darnell Nurse, that goes um, no discipline from the uh the Players Association. I don't understand. Department of Player Safety. I apologize. Darnell Nurse breaks Rope Hintz's foot. I think that definitely has a lot to do with it. But this series turned in game two when Edmonton shut out Dallas. And then from there on, Edmonton didn't look back, Shades. And I
Yep.
know that there's another moment that we'll get to in game number five, but this series was really wild. And for a five-game series, that's saying something, especially when one team was more dominant than the other. A lot of entertaining points.
Yeah, I mean, I forget the specifics of which games it was, but Dallas got into penalty trouble in 2 games and
Mm.
can't do that against Edmonton. I mean, when you're going against McDavid, Draisaitl, and co, I mean, you're just asking yourself to lose.
And Edmonton is such a tough place to win. And you look at the two games that the Stars played in Edmonton, they lose 6-1 in game number three. And those were the games that you were alluding to where Dallas had penalty trouble. In game four, they lost 4-1. So again, two non-competitive finishes. And then even at home in game five, win or go home game five, you lose by 3 goals. So Edmonton really flexed their muscle. They were a team and they are a team all postseason and even going back to last year when they had their resurgence towards the end of the year and into the playoffs. Shades, simply put, they can score at will. And when you look at Stuart Skinner and his struggles in net, even if you look at Calvin Pickard and what his save percentage and goals against average is, the Edmonton Oilers are one of the few teams in the last 5 to 10 years where I say goaltending doesn't matter. Because if they're down 2-0 going into the third period of a game, I have very little doubts that they're not going to make a comeback. That's how high powered they are offensively. And their engine is Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. And wouldn't you know it, they're two of the best players left in the playoffs. You could argue the two best players. So this was just utter dominance from the Oilers, and they look like a team that does not want to let this opportunity go to waste. They have
Yep.
vengeance on their mind, baby.
Oh, they certainly have revenge on the mind. And speaking of revenge, this is the first time in the NHL, at least, since 2008 and 2009 that we have had a rematch in the Stanley Cup Final. 0809 being Detroit and Pittsburgh, winning in that order. Will we see the same thing happen this time around, or will Edmonton fall short again?
Yeah, you're asking me for a prediction?
I guess so. What's your prediction, Liam?
Well, do you want to go into Ottinger in game five first, or you want my prediction first? Because we got to talk about Ottinger and DeBoer. But if you want my prediction first, I'll give it to you. Your show.
Let's do Ottinger game four. Let's build up a little bit of suspense here.
Shades. Shades. Jake Ottinger, esteemed goaltender in the National Hockey League, in a winner go home game number five, gives up his first 2 goals on the first 2 shots against. And head coach Peter DeBoer elects to pull him in favor of Mr. Casey DeSmith, right? Is that
Yes,
what we were?
sir. Good
Played,
memory.
played against the Rangers and absolutely dominated them. Remember that when
Yeah, because of course
in
he
the
did.
playoffs? Remember that? Sorry, just we're Ranger
Yes,
fans.
yes, I do.
Gotta bring that.
I also remember Dustin Tokarski, but at least we won that series.
Yes, yes. Great shot, Marty. Great shot.
Yes,
We sent that in our group chat a couple of days ago.
we
Uh,
did.
but DeBoer pulls Jake Ottinger. Shades, I just want to get your thoughts. I mean, straight away. I mean, were you watching the game when you
Oh
found
yeah.
out what was going through your mind? It's a game five. It's a winner go home. I mean, crazy stuff.
I was watching, and I forget whether I texted it in the chat with you and Brendan, or I texted my friend Mike separately, but I
Mm.
go, that's 100% a desperation move from DeBoer. And with how the team started that game, knowing what was on the line, it did make sense. Because he needed to give that team a shot in the ass. And, well, in the end, it didn't work, obviously. But if they would have kept them in, who knows how long they might have lost 7 or 8-0 had they
Yeah,
not done that. So you just don't know.
you just don't know. For me, and of course, neither of us are NHL head coaches, but if I were in his shoes during that moment, I would not have pulled Ottinger. I would have pulled him at 3-0. I would not have pulled him at 2-0. And again, it's the first 2 shots of the game. So of course you can always look at it from that angle. And like you said, if you give up your first 2 shots, what's to say that you're not going to give up your next 2 shots? And then suddenly as a 4-0 deficit is something that you really cannot come back from. But I think you make a very good point. Everybody's looking at DeBoer. Everybody's looking at Ottinger. How about you look at the rest of the team? who are coming out onto the ice in a winner go home game five after two games in Edmonton in games number three and four, where you got shellacked. You scored two total goals. Even if you go back to game two, Dallas scored two goals in three games.
Yep.
Win or go home, game five, you come out like that. So a little bit less about Ottinger, a little bit less about DeBoer, and a little bit more about the entire group and not coming ready to play. Because guess what? And I know that you know this. Goals against are more than just the goaltender. I don't care who's in there. If you're giving up grade A scoring chances to, let me check, 97 or 29,
No bueno.
make in your bed and you got to lie in it. And, it falls on all three parties, but I would look a little bit more at the team. Just for some context shades, this is what Pete DeBoer had to say about Jake Onger. He says, and I quote, I didn't blame it all on Jake, but the reality is if you go back to last year's playoffs, he's lost 6 out of 7 games to Edmonton, and we give up 2 goals on 2 shots in an elimination game. That's a pretty big sample size. End quote. And it seems like from what you said, you kind of agree.
Yeah. I mean, he's not entirely wrong. It's just the sudden decision on the surface had you going, what the hell is going on?
Right. And the part that I don't like, especially from DeBoer and Ottinger, but more from DeBoer, is that DeBoer admitted that he had not gotten a chance to speak to Ottinger before he addressed the media. And got to have an open line of communication with your goaltender. And my next question to you, Shades, is very simple. Going into next season, is Pete DeBoer the head coach of the Dallas Stars? Because I don't think he is.
It's hard to say no to that with three straight conference finals appearances.
Nothing to show for it, though. You can ask the same question about
True.
Roddy Brind'Amour in Carolina. And what Rod said
It's true.
in his exit interview today, and again, I'm a little bit more paraphrasing. He said, suddenly when we get to the semifinals, that's a disappointment. That says a lot about where we are
Yeah.
as it.
Yeah, that means the expectations are extremely high. Championship level expectations.
And do you acquire, and this is going back to Dallas now, do you acquire Mikko Rantanen? Do you put all of your faith into a number one goaltender in Jake Ottinger to not push your pedal to the metal? I don't know. If I'm Jim Neal and I'm looking down from the suites and I see three straight Western Conference final losses and I see five combined goals in the last 4 games of a Western Conference final after you won game one, I don't know how you retain the coach. And I like Pete DeBoer. And I was talking very good about him a couple episodes ago. His record in game sevens, it's incredible. Um, but it's a results-driven business. And at the end of the day, you put your faith in Casey DeSmith to help you to come back and win a playoff game where it's win or go home over your guy. And you had not had a conversation with him before you addressed the media. A lot of red flags. I feel for Dallas. They need to figure something out quick. It's just important conversation to have, Shades, because of the impact what conference finals losses can have on teams. Pete DeBoer and Roddy Brind'Amour are two of the best coaches in the league, and I can't tell you for sure both are going to be back next year. Um,
I mean,
okay.
I would be pretty shocked. Well, I would be surprised.
I'll be surprised, but DeBoer if Brind'Amour wasn't here.
I'm
More than
okay. I would be a little surprised if DeBoer gets fired, but not shocked. If Brind'Amour gets fired, I would be very shocked because
there's a
he's
lot
done
of
something that
reasons.
no coach in the like currently in the NHL has done, win a playoff series for 7 straight years. That in itself, I don't think people understand how good that is.
It's a fair point. It is.
I mean, hey, look, Rangers couldn't do it, Capitals couldn't do it, Penguins couldn't do it. We're talking about teams that have won the cup. Blues couldn't do it. Knights couldn't do it. Avalanche couldn't do it. They didn't even come close to doing that.
Maybe Tampa.
Possibly.
But again,
No, no, because 2019.
Right, 2019. But if you take 2019 away, but again, look at the coach on Tampa Bay, right?
Yeah.
John Cooper. So that again, alluding to your point that Rod Brind'Amour really is on the upper echelon of coaches. So I'd be surprised too, but two conference finals losses and both teams looking for the right adjustment to get over the hump. But right now, all the spotlight belongs to Florida and Edmonton. They deserve it.
Yeah,
You know.
I mean, we're gonna go more in depth about this at some point over the summer, but like specifically with Dallas, I think that a couple tough decisions need to be made in that locker room.
Yeah, yeah. Um, they're right there, but not good enough, you
Yep.
know. And I would make this argument, and and we can wrap it up here, but I'd love to know your thoughts on this.
Let's see if we're thinking the same thing right now.
Is Dallas, are Dallas and Carolina equally as far away from the Oilers and the Panthers as one another? And what I mean by that is the difference, I guess, between I don't really know how to word this correctly.
Hmm.
Obviously, a difficult challenge for the Dallas Stars beating the Oilers. Is it as difficult of a challenge to overcome for the Hurricanes to do the same to the Panthers? Who is closer to overcoming their team that they faced in the Western or Eastern Conference Final?
I gotta go Dallas.
You think Dallas is closer
I think
to
you
beating
have to.
Edmonton than Florida is, or than Carolina is to beating Florida?
I think I gotta go Dallas because we were also having this conversation, or at least I brought it up the other day, or did I? I was thinking about bringing it up. I don't remember if I did or not, but I was on the verge of texting you, like, we need to have a serious discussion about the Metro division and kind of the East in general, because the last 6 years, who's come out of the Eastern Conference? The Florida teams.
Yeah. And just for the record, I agree with you. I think Dallas is closer to Edmonton than Carolina is to Florida. But it's been pretty similar the last couple of years, right?
Hmm.
Dallas loses to Edmonton in 6 games last year, loses to them in 5 games this year. Of course, we don't get a Carolina Panthers Eastern Conference final last year, but if you go back 2 years ago, that was a clean sweep. And then this year, it was almost a clean sweep. Um, just goes to show you how dominant each team in the Stanley Cup final truly are. But it's an interesting discussion. I'm sure we'll go more into it in the offseason, but
Oh yeah. No,
glad we agree.
yeah. I mean, I gotta go Dallas. The West is arguably been. Actually, no, I don't think arguably. I think the West has been tougher the last several years.
Yeah, when you think of, I think the East has been relatively top heavy, but I think the
Yeah.
West, you have to go through a gauntlet no matter which first round series you're going in, and you can't really say that for the East. So I totally agree with you, man. Decisions, decisions, decisions.
Yeah. Yeah. Plenty to be made this offseason, because after the Cup final, it's already June. We got, the draft and free agency sneaking up on us.
I'll be here before we know it. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Those will be fun episodes, hopefully.
I've got to watch the Islanders make the number one overall pick, so might be
Yeah.
sleeping for the first 30 minutes or so.
Yeah, and then my friend texts me, wow, the free agent pool this year is ass.
I haven't had a chance to look at it.
All right, but before we get into that, so two things have been, were brought up this week. Number one, it is looking like Jonathan Toews is trying to make a comeback into the NHL, which I would love to see him back in the NHL because he was dealing with what they were calling long COVID. So he was, dealing with like respiratory problems for an extended period of time and stuff like that. So if he is able to come back, and it sounds like he's for the most part pretty healthy right now, and a comeback actually looks somewhat possible. Uh, I forget who it was on NHL Network. It may have been Mike Johnson saying he could see him either coming back to either Anaheim or Winnipeg. And I was just like, don't count Chicago out too, because that's where he's played his whole career.
Well, you know where Jonathan Toews is from? Winnipeg,
Winnipeg.
Manitoba, Canada. Yes. Obviously, 3 Stanley Cups with the Blackhawks, has not played for any other NHL team. Shades, I'm a little bit less optimistic than you are about Tays making a comeback. I mean, it's been two full seasons since he's played. Has not played since the 2022-23 year where he suited up for 53 games for the Blackhawks, and he was a minus 31. And again, when you're dealing with respiratory issues, when you're dealing with long COVID or whatever he was going through, and subsequently went through, obviously difficult to produce and don't want to take those numbers for too much. But at the same time, you have to wonder if he's going to be able to keep up with the pace of play of the NHL now. It's a fast game, and
Yep.
he's up there in age. He's 37. He will be 38, I believe. No, he is 37, and he will be 37 for the 25-26 season. But I just don't know how much he's going to give you, to be honest. Big time wild card. But when I look at Winnipeg and when I look at what they lacked this year, losing to Dallas in the second round, it was center depth. And maybe bringing in a veteran center who's smart on both sides of the puck wouldn't be the worst thing. So definitely going to be interesting, but I think there's a lot to prove for Jonathan Toews. 2 years, not playing, not training. You don't know what that's going to look like. So,
Well, I mean, you also have to look at it as he is 37. He's not going to come back and be a team's number one center because that's just not realistic.
right, right. But the drop off had been coming for a little while. He had the 81 point season in 2018-19, but before that he had an eclipsed 50 or 60 points in the previous 4 years. So we'll see what it turns into. But again, Tay's one of those guys in the league that you just love to cheer for.
Oh, yeah.
To see him come back and to see him make something of his career after was possibly in doubt would be really sweet to see. And I don't think anybody expects him to be that same player. But if he can bring that Jonathan Toews leadership and again that two-way play to a team that's right on the cusp of winning a Stanley Cup, maybe you don't have to give them a ton of minutes, and maybe he can make an impact in other ways, help bring young guys along. So when you're looking at Winnipeg or whatever team might be interested, it's not the worst thing. Maybe he goes back to the Blackhawks. Maybe he takes a third line center role and helps to develop Bedard. So you never know.
Yeah, you never do know. But yeah, rooting for him. Hope he does make a comeback because that would be an awesome moment.
Me too. One of the best to ever lace him up.
Well, at least for the Blackhawks.
Yeah, good play. Three Stanley Cups, man. Can't discount that.
Yeah,
Good player.
yeah,
Uh,
he was a good player.
29 points in that playoff run in 09-10.
God damn.
29 points in 22 games. I think people forget. But and again, longevity, a big thing. You know, like the fact that he was even still producing during the 2022-23 year. That's when he was 34. Not a lot of guys are able to keep it going, especially with the same team. So, yeah, I'm a big Tays fan.
Yeah, I mean, I hope we see it.
Right on.
All right, so we go from one player in Jonathan Toews looking to make a comeback to the NHL to another player who just announced their retirement the other day, Rangers legend Jesper Fast.
Thank you for your service, Jesper.
Thank you,
Quick,
sir.
Faust was a very good Ranger.
Solid Ranger.
One of those players that could play anywhere in the lineup, came up through the system, right? Former sixth round draft pick, and you never know what you're going to expect out of sixth round picks. But 33 years old now, Swedish forward, wasn't the
He's
biggest,
only 33.
only 33, 6'1", 191. Wasn't the biggest guy, but really played. Like he had that extra strength to him. Broke into the Rangers 2013-14. That's a good time to break into the Rangers, huh?
Very good time.
And I know we were all disappointed when he signed with Carolina and the Rangers pretty much let him walk after what was it, 2019, 2020,
Yeah, I was pissed about that.
as was I. Um,
Yeah, but I was more so pissed that they didn't re-sign him as opposed to him signing with Carolina.
Signed to a very low AAV, a guy that knew his role and did it well.
Yes.
Any time where a Rangers member of the top six went out, especially from 2015 to 2020 until we entered the bubble, right? He would slot in and you wouldn't know. He would always make the right play. So I think I read a tweet earlier today, and don't hold me to this on the exact number, but I believe with Jesper Fast announcing his retirement, the amount of Rangers who are on the 2013-2014 team has dwindled to less than five. I think off the top of my head, Zook, Kreider, JT Miller, still with the Rangers. Besides that, I mean, Cam Talbot was backing up, maybe played one or two games that year. But besides that, everyone else is gone.
Damn.
Pretty pretty crazy.
Yeah. Oh, what a time to be alive that was.
Dylan McIlrath also played two games that year.
Oh yeah, shit.
2013-14. Um, I know Hagelin, right, announced his retirement last year. Um, Crazy how time flies, but thank you, Jesper Fast.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. What a goddamn. I love reminiscing on 2014.
Yeah. And I think stats like that, right? When you talk about the amount of members of the 2014 team that are still in the NHL, I think it really brings to light the longevity of two players specifically. And I know you shit on them a lot, but Chris Kreider and Matt Zuccarello, these guys are still gunning and they are still producing. I mean,
Well, at least Zook is.
Kreider, you could say what you want, but
Yeah.
Zook is still a top line player, you could argue, in
Hey, it
Minnesota.
helps that he's playing with Kaprizov.
Helps that he's playing with Kaprizov, but still, even before
Still
his
my guy.
advance, Zook was a great player, and
Yeah.
JT Miller played 30 games that year. Could barely crack the Rangers lineup. So, wow, oh, wow, fun times for sure.
Yeah. Well, I mean, also, I mean, they were a pretty veteran group at that point, 2013, 14, because you had Richards, you had St. Louis,
Yeah,
you had
yeah. Pouliot, who was older at that time,
yeah,
Callahan before he got moved.
yeah. Yeah,
Mhm.
Strawman was at like just entering his prime, and of course we let him walk.
Delzato, the GOAT, Mark Stahl,
Kevin Klein,
Derek Brassard,
Derek Brassard, baby.
Rick Nash,
Ah,
former
damn.
Jacksonville Iceman coach Brandon Mashinter played 6 games for the Rangers that year.
Interesting.
Ready for a name? Danny Carcillo.
Oh yeah, I still remember the goal in Philly in game 7.
Most underrated defenseman of that time period, Kevin Klein.
Kevin Klein.
Kevin Klein. Love him. He retired. That is a player that retired too early, Kevin Klein.
Oh well. Hey, he was great, Ranger.
2016-17 played 60 games with us. What a dog. Then won a championship in the Swiss League. Good player.
He he
Strawman too. Then we let him.
he probably celebrated by eating a lot of Swiss chocolate. I mean I would have.
Yeah, he won it for Zurich SC. 10 goals in
God
that
damn.
season.
God damn. Didn't he have like 8 or 9 with us for like two
He
straight years?
he had 9 back-to-back years,
Yeah.
2014-15 and 2015-16. He was really one of the few bright spots on the defense when we were kind of.
Yeah. I know we were supposed to be talking about Jesper Fast right now, but Kevin Klein, I remember when we got him and he's just like he's a reliable defensive presence. Don't expect any offense out of him. 9 goals, 2 straight seasons, and we're just like, holy shit.
Before we leave the Kevin Klein train, I just want to bring back a moment, and I hope you remember. Do you remember his one-time bomb that beat Fleury to win in overtime right before the All-Star break in 2015-16? If you haven't, go back and watch it. Beautiful. I think it was before the NHL went to 3-on-3. It was 4-on-4, and he just let a fucking clock bomb go. And that was probably one of his 9 goals that year. But overtime game winner, Kevin Klein.
You want to know what goal I randomly think about? Even though, like, we're
Sure.
going off on a tangent here, like that I randomly think about from his.
What do you got?
And it's not even like a game anything close to a game-winning goal or anything. You
Hmm.
remember the game against Minnesota? We were down 3-0 going into the
Oh
third period.
yeah. Oh
He
yeah.
scores the first goal and when in a period in which the Rangers scored 5 goals. I literally called my friend after the game. It's like, dude, did you believe that just happened?
Yeah. I believe the Rangers were down 3-0, and it was the end of the second period, and Klein scored, made it 3-1. I was like, and that, I believe, was
Started
the
the
night
turnaround.
that Anthony Duclair made his NHL debut and scored.
The tying goal, and then Zook scored the game winner.
And I think Brassard scored the second goal.
I think
And
so.
also, one more note on Klein. I mentioned that overtime winner he scored against Pittsburgh. Earlier in that game, he had lost a chunk of his ear and
Hmm.
came back into the game and scored the overtime winner.
What a
So,
warrior.
Jesper Fast and Kevin fucking Klein. Thank
And since we're, bringing up random ass goals, I have to bring up a random ass assist from Jesper Fast. Game 5 against Washington.
Yeah, and that face-off dot, right?
Yes, sir. Curtis Glencross tries to go cross ice. Jesper Fast bats it out of the air, skates it into the zone. Across the step on it goes. They delay a shot. They score. Ryan McDonough wins it in overtime.
Oh, I was thinking about game seven because in game seven, or yes, in game seven, it was Fost who helped off the face-off and won that back to Girardi, and then the one-timer blocked in front by who blocked it? Oh my gosh, I'm gonna know the name, but I don't know the name right now. Pops right to step on beauty, and that McDonough goal too. I mean, since we're reminiscing, like you want to talk about depressing moments and when you really think a season is over for your team, before Kreider scored that game tying goal, man.
Yandel passes it up the ice.
That's
Step on banks it. Or no.
great drop
Yeah.
pass, man. Great drop
Yeah.
pass. Bomb, McDonough, love it. But you knew we couldn't go this episode without reminiscing about the Rangers, at least a little
Oh, yeah.
bit.
Well, I mean, we had to after bringing up Jesper Fast retiring.
And, it's players like Jesper Fast that I think helped to add to Carolina's identity after he got there. We talk a lot about the success and how many, years in a row that they have won at least a playoff game. Jesper Fast, big part of that.
Oh, yeah.
And I know that they really missed him when he went out with his neck problem and didn't play a lot of games this year. So NHL's losing a good player, but really thank you for your service. It was a pleasure to watch, Jesper. It really was.
Yes,
Quickie.
sir. Quickie, baby. Yeah, good times.
Good times.
Loved watching him as a player. Hated when they didn't re-sign him.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm going to bring up one more moment. It was Brady Shea who concussed Jesper Fast, right, in game one of the bubble. Um,
Yeah, I believe so.
and Jesper Fast did not play, and I will be on record. And I felt this way in 2020 when I was watching a building full of empty fans play between Carolina and the Rangers. If Jesper Fast doesn't get hurt, maybe things are a little bit different.
That
Yeah.
maybe. And
So many memories. So many
I
memories.
do have to bring this up. I just remember when that happened,
Mm.
and immediately the team just folded. I was just thinking this team is nowhere close to competing. They lose one guy, and the entire spirit of the team collapsed.
Just goes to show how much he meant.
Yep.
So
But that also just goes to show you weak locker room
at the time, yeah.
at the time. And I mean, it kind of is now, but that's besides the point. Thank you, Jesper Foss, for your service. You will be missed. We loved watching on the Rangers. Enjoy your retirement, my good sir.
100%.
Yep. All right, now before we end this episode, we kind of got away from it a little bit, but we were talking about it earlier. We never gave our actual predictions for the Stanley Cup Final. I mean, we discussed it in the group chat. You and Brendan were serious about it, and I had a little bit of fun there because go ahead, go ahead. Who you got and why?
You want me to take it?
Go for it.
This is tough, and I believe I've gone against the Panthers in all three rounds in the Eastern Conference, and I'm going to do it again. Edmonton, to me, is so strong of a group. And when you brought up earlier in the episode, the last time that we've had the same two members of the Stanley Cup final in back-to-back years, it was the Red Wings and the Penguins. And if you look back, one team won the first year, and the next team won the next year. And I think that's going to happen again here. Edmonton, they are as dangerous as it gets. And I mentioned it earlier in the episode, probably a little bit of a sneak peek to what my prediction was going to be. They can score at will. And the fact that they do not have, they probably, statistically, had one of the worst goaltending tandems going into the playoffs. And you could argue that same fact prior to last year. And like last year, they overcame their weaknesses and they're going back to the Stanley Cup final. So I'm going to take Edmonton to win this series in 6 games. think it's going to be a lot different. Panthers have not played well in Sunrise during this playoff run. It's where Carolina kind of got back into it, and we saw Toronto have some success as well. I'm not taking anything away from the Panthers. They are an amazing team, Stanley Cup champions. You have to give them their respect. But I definitely think we saw some weak spots in Game 4 and Game 5 of the Eastern Conference Final. And when I look at what Edmonton had done to a very good Dallas Stars team, who before they got to the conference final took out a very good Colorado Avalanche team. They ran through everybody so far, and I don't see this being any different. Edmonton in six. I think Florida will give it a little bit of a fight. The goaltending does not mean as much as it meant last year. And simply put, I don't think Connor McDavid is going to let his team lose back-to-back Stanley Cup Finals. This is where Connor McDavid's legacy as an all-time great starts. You do it during the regular season, you edge it into stone in the postseason. And I think Connor McDavid does it. And I think it's only right that Sidney Crosby was the last player to be a part of back-to-back Stanley Cup Finals being the same two teams. And Connor McDavid is going to do what Sidney Crosby did as well and win Stanley Cup for the first time.
We'll see. Brendan's got the Panthers in five because he basically said, I mean, just look at the way they manhandled Carolina. I mean, it's like they weren't even trying.
I don't think Carolina and Edmonton are even close to
No,
to each other. So I love you, Brendan. And I just want to make one more note. Conn Smythe Award winner, Leon.
Alexander. Oh, Draisaitl. Excuse me. Barkov won the Selke.
Barkov won the Selkie. I do want to make one other note. The Oilers are going to be without Zach Hyman for this series. That's going to make a difference for sure.
Yes.
Zach Hyman is one heck of a player, but I think Edmonton this year has the depth. They've been doing this without Matthias Ekholm on the back end. Matthias Ekholm, you could argue that's their best defensive defenseman. And with that goaltending,
Oh, without that trade
that
last year,
defense,
without the trade for
they're
him
doing
last year, they don't
this.
make the final, man.
Yeah, and last point. You can make a counter argument that the defense and the goaltending for the Oilers isn't there, but I'm going to take you back to the Western Conference Finals that we all just watched. And the point that I made around 30 minutes ago, Edmonton lost game one, 6-3. After game one, Edmonton allowed Dallas to score 5 goals. And 3 of those goals were in game five. This team is operating on all cylinders defensively, all cylinders offensively. Chris Knobloch is elite and one of the few coaches that I think can go head to head strategy wise with Paul Maurice. And I don't think the goaltending matters all that much. Canada is getting a championship.
Okay. All right. I mean, you know who's going to win the Stanley Cup, right?
Edmonton.
Pucks and Brews in four.
Oh, Bucks. Oh, yes, yes, yes. Pucks and Bruce.
Pucks and Brews in four. Goddamn right.
Our forecheck is relentless.
Oh, absolutely. Although the NHL's scared to let us in because of they wouldn't be able to hand you the massive revenue in incoming.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
But all seriousness, but I am gonna pick the Panthers again.
Okay.
Now, I mean, we talked about this earlier too. We look at what's happened with Dallas last couple years. They've just flamed out. I don't think the Panthers are going up. I mean, I thought Tampa was going to put up more of a fight, but Vasilevsky had a horrendous series in the first round. The Leafs did give them a good fight, but ultimately they ended up taking that series. And Carolina, I mean, they walked all over them, so they got the confidence going. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Florida to repeat in 6 games, just because I don't know. I just watching those two series, I'm just like, don't get me wrong, Dallas didn't have it and Carolina didn't have it, but I go back to last year and I'm just like, I don't know, something just telling me that I wouldn't be surprised if the Oilers win, but I'm gonna pick the Panthers.
Fair enough. And just to counter one of those points, Edmonton fell down 2-0 to LA in the first round. And since then, Their opponents have won a combined two games. Two games.
It's strange how LA
They're
of
a
all
team.
teams took them to 6 games. Meanwhile, that's the worst team they played in the playoffs this far. So,
Yeah, I think many people around the NHL would have pegged Vegas to be one of the top teams in the Western Conference, alongside Dallas and alongside Edmonton. And Edmonton dispatched of them. Shades, I hate to bring this card,
well,
but
Vegas can't fucking
Edmonton,
skate.
yeah, that's a different point, but yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, but one team has been forced to 7 games, and the other team lost the first 2 games of the playoffs and has lost a combined 2 games in the next 2 rounds. For me, this just completely points at an Oilers team that will not be denied. They won't be denied. That's how I see it. And I won't be surprised if Florida wins because you have to give Florida their respect, just like you gave Edmonton their respect, even though, picking on the other side. Florida's Stanley Cup champions.
Yep.
In that first round, you could say Vasilevsky had a bad series and
Right, he
you know,
did.
and he did, but Florida was equally as dominant. There were times where Tampa Bay didn't belong on the same ice. And that's even going along with top end players like Nikita Kucherov and Braden Point and Victor Hedman not producing, and one of the best coaches in the NHL. Round two, I think maybe the series going to 7 says a little bit more about Toronto than it does about Florida. Toronto's close. Toronto's close. Greg
They're
Berube
right there.
playing really well. They were right there. And I think they probably would have beaten Carolina, although I would have predicted otherwise, in that Eastern Conference final. This is going to be an amazing series. I would not be surprised if it goes 7 games. But I view Edmonton as a team that won't be denied, and I think they're going to win.
Yeah, let's hope. Let's see. I don't know why I said let's hope. We'll
Well,
see.
I think every fan could have a rooting interest in seeing Connor McDavid, the man who's widely known as the best player in hockey, to win his first Stanley Cup. You know, and I think even Panthers fans, they'd be like, we made it, we lost, but we won last year, and this guy's able to cement his legacy. Um, yeah.
If I was a Panthers fan, I don't think I'd be happy because I'm just like I'd be 3 straight finals appearances and we barely won one.
Yeah. And you got to remember this as well. I bring up the series stats and I'll bring up another one. Yes, Florida won the war last year against
Yes,
Edmonton, beating them in 7 games. But you could argue that Edmonton has the edge in the battle. They won 3 out of the last 4 games in that series.
they did.
And I don't know what the head-to-head it looks like. Regular season, you could just throw completely out the window. Um, with the way they score, I mean, Dallas had to play near perfect hockey to beat Colorado in round one. And they did. They were excellent. Dallas against Winnipeg, round two. Winnipeg pushed them. 6 games is no slouch. And just for Dallas to just go down after taking a 1-0 series lead. That's what it also shows me. 2 out of these 3 series, Edmonton has fallen behind. They fell behind 1-0 to Dallas and 2-0 to LA, and they came back and won. And you top that with them coming back 3-0 against Florida last year in the Cup final. Yes, you don't win game sevens, but this is a team that is starting to build a track record of if we're down in a game or we're down in a series, don't count us out. So that's a very, very good and unique quality to have in a team entering a Stanley Cup final.
Yeah, now the thing that I'm interested to see is how the refs are going to be calling penalties this series because I don't know, they were a little all over the place in the conference finals, if we're being honest.
Yeah, you just hope at the end of the day that it'll be consistent, right? You know.
Hoping so.
If you're bad, at least you're just consistently bad, you know. Um,
I don't know, because there were certain calls in that Dallas Edmonton series, and it just felt like why is Edmonton getting all the calls, and meanwhile Dallas is getting nothing. Meanwhile, there probably should have been an equal number of penalties called.
right. Also,
And
one more note on the Stanley Cup. Sorry, go for it. What do you
no,
got?
I was just gonna say it just had that feeling.
Yeah, 100%. Edmonton lost the Stanley Cup final last year, but I just want to make a point from game 4, 5, and 6. Edmonton outscored Florida 18-5.
Damn.
And Florida, give them all the credit in the world. They completely locked them down in game seven. They did what they did to the Rangers in the Eastern Conference Finals. No room to breathe. You make one mistake and it's over. But in the meat of that series, Edmonton flexed their goal scoring muscle. And they fell down 3-0. They lose the first two games by 3 goals. That's definitely something to look at. But by game three, it's a 1 goal game. You lose 4-3. And then you take over that series. Um, awesome hockey. I really can't wait.
Yeah, now that you bring that up, I do kind of remember watching the series like play out last year going, wow, this isn't a great cup final. Every game's been a fucking blowout.
Yeah. Game four, where Edmonton's back were against the wall and they could get swept if they lost. Edmonton scored eight in a Stanley Cup final game, 8 out of the 9 goals. So yeah, definitely to your point.
Yeah, I'm
Uh,
hoping this series is a little bit more competitive game in and game out because if we get a repeat of last year, I'm just going to be going, it was a one-sided game every single game. It's those aren't necessarily the best finals or series to watch.
100%. I agree.
Yeah, I mean, that's just how it is. Just calling it how it is. All right. Well, I mean, we got the Stanley Cup final starting tomorrow because it's currently Tuesday, June 3rd, as at the time we're recording. I'm working a fucking concert tomorrow night, so I'm gonna miss the game again. Hate my luck lately. We'll be home for games two and three though. I said Panthers in six? Yes, I did. Just so hope everyone enjoyed the talk about NHL video games and coffee at the beginning of the episode. Hope everyone enjoyed the Stanley Cup final preview, conference final recap. Hope everyone enjoyed a drink of choice during the episode because I had my cold brew, not sponsored. How was the ice water?
Just ice.
Oh, it's just
But
ice now.
the longer I let it sit, the more it
You,
becomes ice water.
you need some? Also
Yeah,
not,
good work.
also not sponsored.
I,
Also not sponsored.
I don't even know what that said. I
It's
don't even know that.
Costco's brand.
That's not a green label. It's not Poland Spring.
It is not.
They still sell Poland Spring. That's all I used to drink when I was in New York.
I mean, I should
I haven't
just,
really seen it. It's
well,
crazy.
it's Kirkland, so Costco's brand.
All right. Shout out to
Not
you.
not sponsored. I'm not trying to get copyrighted here or violated for product placement. That was accidental
We enjoy shopping at BJ's just as much as we enjoy shopping at Costco. There's no preference.
at good prices. So, wholesale.
Buy in bulk. Yeah.
Yeah, literally. It helps.
Every penny counts. That's what I've learned being an adult.
Pretty much. All when you can buy a 24 pack of sodas for 12 bucks, arguably under that, you're just like, yeah, that's a pretty good deal.
Because you think about it and it's like it's 50 cents per can. And you think about what you'd be paying in a machine.
At
So
least a dollar, dollar 25 these days. If you go to a store, it's probably like 2 bucks, if not more.
that's what I'm saying. So,
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't sound like a lot, but over the course of 24 fucking cans,
oh
that
yeah, yeah.
shit adds up very quickly.
Hmm.
Yeah, I love how we're giving financial advice here.
Don't take financial advice, at least from
No.
me. I mean, maybe from Shades. I mean, he knows how to get that overtime at City Field, every time he goes and works a game and
Yeah,
there's no
aka every time I
rain
work, the Mets
delay.
play a slow ass game. Dude, I'm still pissed about 2 Fridays ago. We were there until 1:15 a.m.
And the Mets lost that game, didn't they?
Yes, they did in 13 innings with post-game fireworks. Kill me.
But then they canceled the post-game fireworks the next Friday.
Yes, because of impending bad weather that didn't happen.
Shocker.
Yeah, I swear. Yeah, those people, they're not getting a raise if I was ever in charge. I'll say that.
Hopefully one day you'll be in charge and you'll hire me to be the manager of the Mets.
I mean, hopefully I'm not in charge. Hopefully I'm in charge of a hockey organization because that would be way better. Then I'd hire you, hands
Yeah,
down.
thank you.
Yeah.
There's only one job I'd want.
Oh,
Give me
play
that,
by play.
give me that microphone.
Yeah, goddamn right.
Oh, I want Brandon on commentary, and I want Shades to make an appearance ringside.
Yeah, I'll be
You're
the
the
fuck
owner
is
and ringside,
the
ringside.
hell's the word I'm looking for? I'll be the Ray Ferraro impersonator.
You'd be a pretty good Ray Ferraro. I feel like, you know, like just
I'd be
like to dissect plays, you know?
yeah, me see, dude, I can't see shit when I'm that low.
Fair enough.
Like, dude, because I remember I was working, no, excuse me, I was attending a game at as a fan at MSG once. The Rangers were playing the Senators. Rangers won 3-0. Rangers just basically put on a boring ass defensive clinic the whole game, and I'm just like, they played great defensively that game. Had it was sitting in the 400s, had a fucking perfect view of the ice, just solid ass defense all game. And when I was working at Barclays a couple years back, I only worked like two fucking hockey games, which I'm still upset about, but it was Rangers Islanders, one of them. I am literally right next to the ice, right on the other side of the glass. Dude, you cannot, like, the depth perception is horrendous because you're just like, I can't tell if that guy's 20 feet away or 10 feet away.
Yeah, yeah, I hear that. And you kind of have your back turned, right? If you're an usher.
Actually, no, I wasn't working as an usher. I was like, when I was done with work, I was literally just able to go right up to the glass and just watch the game.
That's nice.
Yeah, it was pretty fun. It was good times. Cool stuff. But yeah, this has been Pucks and Brews. I have been your host, Michael Shades Farasino, alongside, as always, Liam, the Chellmaster Godimer. This has been episode number 76 of Pucks and Brews. Enjoy the Stanley Cup Final, everyone, and we'll be back after the Stanley Cup is hoisted. Let's just hope we get a good series.
Go Oilers. Connor McDavid, baby.
All I'm going to ask of both of these teams is please put on a better Stanley Cup Final than last year, because wasn't the biggest fan with how everything played out. That's all I'll say. Okay, I'm done. Enjoy the Stanley Cup final, everyone. Goodbye.